Hmm. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to my very first live. My name is Miss Wendy, and I'm the Director of Education at SweetPea Tutoring. So today, I want to talk about um, the topic of education. So, what it is, why it's important, some of its challenges, decisions that we make as parents. As a mother and an educator, I have a very unique perspective on public school versus private school, homeschooling versus charter schools, alternate education such as independent study. So all of that encompasses actually my areas of experience. And so I've taught from kinder all the way up to adult. I have let's see. Started off as a substitute, so I'll introduce myself. So again, my name is Miss Wendy. My company name is called SweetPea Tutoring, and I started education a very long time ago, believe it or not. I started off as a substitute teacher in Orange County, California, and that's where I discovered my love of teaching. Just being able to work with students, serve their families as an educator, and just learning the best practices and also learning the best ways in order to serve the communities in which I was working. Let's see if I can put in a question for you all. I'm going to start a Q&A. I'm going to type in, do you have Mhm. All right. So, do you have school age children? Is my question of the evening. I don't know if it lets me do more than one question at a time, but I would love to hear back from. Let's see. Oh yeah, I'd love to hear back from the audience, get some feedback, figure out how to navigate this thing. It's still my first time, and I think this is kind of cool. Um, let's see. Um, see the dashboard. Okay. So, something else. I can start talking about. Hmm, actually, one thing I can do is share. I don't know if I'd be able to do this, but let me see if I can pull up my tutoring website. Okay. Let's see. So my platform for this one, actually, this channel, is to promote dialogue between myself and the public, general public, those that are interested in education, the things that affect education, like the policies that are being passed, the Department of Education on the chopping block, things of that nature. So it'd be really great to hear your thoughts on any of those topics, and just to get a better idea of where you're coming from in terms of your perspective on education as it is today. Because education, the way it ran when I was young and in school, was very, very different. Um, I believe there was a better level of respect for teachers and for the educational system. It wasn't perfect, but at least the level of engagement and the level of respect was very, very different. Um, yeah, let's see. Chat rate is 0. This is kind of concurrent viewers. Okay, so I need to get my bobbies up. Oh, I've got a great idea. Let me see. If there's a way about my chat. Hmm. If anyone can find me, that'd be fabulous because I could also figure out how to do this in terms of in terms of getting participants. This is really interesting how this works. Hmm. Okay. Um, oh boy. Okay, well, it's been, oh, I see. Hmm. Let's see this. Hmm. Cool. Um, Loading. All right, well, on this platform, since this is my first time, I mean, it's cool that I feel like I'm talking to myself at the present moment, but it's fine. Really trying to just get some uh, engagement here. Oh no, sorry. I don't know vampires or zombies. I don't want to see anything. Those things they give me nightmares. Okay, so my short. See what I can do to garner some I'm learning as I go. Let's see. Wow. Oh boy. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Um. Oh, these glasses. This is pretty funny. So, hopefully, would you like to be on my live? Okay. So, anyhow, let me see. Let me see. Let me see. All right. So, looks like we have a participant. All right. So, thank you for joining. I want to reintroduce myself. My name is, oh, okay, still learning, still learning. The learning curve is real. All right, so again, my name is Miss Wenny. I am the owner and director of education for SweetPea Tutoring. We have been in operation for over 10 years, and I'm currently a middle school science teacher working at a private school in the Inland Empire. I started my career as a substitute teacher in Orange County, California, and that is where I fell in love with teaching. So being able to work with other people, serve the families that I did, teaching from kinder all the way up to adult, and teaching in different capacities. So as a substitute teacher, as an independent study teacher, private tutor, um, I've had a lot of experience in education. So, as a mother and as an educator, I'm always concerned about trying to keep up with educational policies while teaching and juggling a business. And I think it's really important for parents to be the advocates for their children. And the best way to do that is to keep informed. So, even if it's something as simple as working from uh, the school district or working with the administration at the school that your child is um, registered at, and that's another very interesting subtopic. But yes, so having those different ways of advocating for your child is very important, I believe. And my experience with public schools as a mixture of both, from my personal perspective as a student. Um, Public schools back in the day when I was coming up were very, um, at least the ones I attended, were very rigorous in their educational programs. We had gifted programs. So the GATE program is what it was called, for gifted and talented something or other. So those types of students, where you would give them accelerated uh, projects and curriculum to keep them engaged because they were above the learning curve, like well above the learning curve. I remember when I was in elementary school, there was a young girl by the name of Heidi. She was a good friend of mine and my brother's, and I was in fourth grade at the time. My brother was in third grade, I believe, and Heidi was in third grade, same grade as my brother, but they wanted to bump her up to fifth grade. Now, her parents were excited academically for her, but in a social aspect, they were not. They were very, very leery, very worried, understandably so, because now you have a 8-year-old wanting to be, or the school wanting to advance an 8-year-old into a group of 10-year-olds. So just the different levels of life, she would be in a very different realm compared to the older students and the things that they're into and the things that she'd be into. She'd still be into dolls. She'd still be into, imaginative play. 10th grade, or sorry, 10-year-olds would start to be into, having crushes and um, maybe not playing with dolls very much or even at all. And a lot of imaginative play may have gone out the window and been replaced with video games. So there's all sorts of, nuances to why a student would not be moved up, even though they're academically ready. If socially they're not ready, then typically the school will hold a student back. Another thing about holding students back, I remember that was something that was also common practice when I was in school. They allowed for, um, I should say, they did not allow for students to just, simply be promoted just because they're a certain age. There was really a call for um, a more rigorous standard, I would say, of people and schools, school districts, administrators, the whole shebang, being on the same page in terms of we don't just pass grades. We don't just, promote kids to be promoting them. Um, and I also remember that students repeating grades was also common, and they typically would do that between K and 2 so they wouldn't fall too far behind. There was also the initial um, what is it, the initial admission into the educational system. They would have to be a certain age. So depending on when your birthday was, that would determine how soon you could enter preschool or enter kinder. And then if a student is not performing at a level that is expected for their age range, because it would really be a range, so 4.5 to 5 for kinder. So we would have TK, which is transitional kinder, and then regular kinder. So you can have a student as young as 4 in TK. So preschool would be, like 3, 4-year-olds. TK is 4-year-olds. Kinder is typically 4.5 to 5 years old when they get started. So I say all that to say that typically when a student has to repeat a grade, those were the grades in which that took place. Nowadays, unfortunately, you have a lot of just simple promotions. Just promote them, whether or not they can read, whether or not they can tell their colors, whether or not they know this, whether or not they know that. They're just promoting students. And unfortunately, the public education system, in my opinion, as a student and as an educator, has really been affected by loopholes and um, the degradation of the policies that are passed in education by non-educational individuals. So you have policymakers who have never stepped inside a classroom, so they don't really understand the needs of the population for which they are now passing all these laws. Um, then you have parents, and it depends on one's background. Um, you have a lot of parents that just trust the system. They just drop their kids off and they have full confidence that the educational system will serve their children to the best of its ability. And that doesn't always happen. Um, it is very, it can be very disheartening as an educator to see a student struggle and there only being so many hours in the day in which you can assist in their learning. And even when you have alternate ways of providing the scaffolding, which is just basically support from the point at which the student knows the information and then building up to that, that's what scaffolding is. There is the tendency, unfortunately, for a lot of teachers to easily get overwhelmed. And I get overwhelmed too at times because you really want to spend that time. And when it's really just you and the student to teacher ratio is very high. So one teacher, 25 plus kids. So 25 to 30 kids in the classroom. It's very difficult to be able to give them that personalized attention that they need. And a lot of times, what ends up happening is that we find ourselves as educators having to do a balancing act where you kind of have to, I wouldn't say sacrifice the level of learning, but you have to have established a baseline. So, baseline meaning that you have a certain level of, um, of instruction that you have for every student that they should be able to meet, be above at baseline, or if they're below, get them up to baseline and beyond. So you want them to be proficient. So let's say we're talking about a second grade class, a class of 7-year-olds. You would want them to be proficient at the baseline level of instruction for what a 7-year-old in second grade should know. And I always say by the end of the school year, they are professional whatever grade they just came from. So by the time a third grader, for example, enters third grade, they're really just a professional second grader. They've gotten into learning the business of school. They've gotten into, being able to sit still, pay attention, focus for a certain amount of time, and receive instruction, take in the information, and be able to synthesize that information and apply it in different scenarios. So whether it's independent practice, guided practice, work with a buddy, work by myself, work in a small group, they're able to do those types of things, and they get better and better at it as the years go on. I would also like to talk about the reality of what the system seems to be like today. And unfortunately, it really tends to be a lot of tremendous gaps. I've seen in my tenure um, a lot of gaps in education, in the learning, um, in the student learning. So basically, in student learning, as I said earlier, they have depending on the school district and type of school, typically, nowadays, we don't, no child left behind. So ever since No Child Left Behind, I personally think that everything's gone. So you have children just promoted to be promoted because we can't leave them behind. We can't have them repeating grades. And unfortunately, what a lot of people don't seem to realize, or maybe you're not aware of, is that school is a business. So the business of education requires that they have physical individuals in their seats each and every day. So apart from safety, that is the reason why attendance is taken every day, for them to know how many students there are in each dedicated seat so that the school receives its federal funding. I have a Q&A, so I'm going to pause. I have a Q&A. The question is, do you have school-age children? I haven't gotten any responses yet, but let's see. School-age children. I have a school-age child in the third grade, going on to fourth. Can't believe it still, but that's what it is. Um, and he attends a private school. The experience is or has been very positive. It is a dual immersion Montessori school. So, dual immersion as in language, so Spanish and English. At the school that I worked at, we have the same type of setup, well, similar setup, but we have two languages that we offer French and Spanish. and we start them from kinder, where they have a separate class. Like they have their main classroom teacher, and then there's a time of the day that they go off to their specialists. Let me see. I'm not getting any responses on the whole have been, oh, thank you very much. But in terms of my Q&A question, I do not see. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Hi. Shout out to Vanity Life. How are you? Thanks for joining. Okay. Let's see if I can do this next one. I'm doing my best. All right. So, oh boy. Okay. These glasses are the worst, but it's okay. All right. So, even if you don't have school age children, I would love to hear your experience as a parent of once upon a time school age children, or even high school, college. Every level has its challenges, and I believe that it's very important for there to be communication, dialogue between teachers, parents, students, because it's a team effort. I think a lot of times people forget that it's not just the teacher because we're only with them, what, 5.5, 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. That's only about 32 hours a week in total. And then the rest of the time, if they have a private tutor, that's a wonderful supplemental learning tool. Having a second person to teach them the information or review what they learned in class, help fill in those gaps, and things of that nature. There's also the mm, oh, there's also the advantage of having parent involvement. So the student has their responsibility in terms of, learning the material, speaking up and asking questions, asking for help when they don't know or can't follow along or have, difficulty following along or understanding the concept. They have a responsibility in their education. Parents have a responsibility in their education, in their child's education, in terms of being aware of what are they learning in school every day. What is the curriculum like? Is there a syllabus? Usually, syllabus or syllabi are for high school, college, of course, but even in elementary, you can have the teacher give a syllabus to give you an overview of what they're going to teach in that year, topics that are going to be covered, things of that nature. And it makes it very helpful for the students and the parents to feel more comfortable when they have the expectations up front. I am not getting why French? Lead blockchain developer. Why French on what exactly? Please explain or please elaborate. So interestingly enough, if I understanding the question, why French? French is a Romance language, so one of the Latin-based languages. So if you learn French, it makes it easy to. It's one of those things where if you learn one of the base languages, Latin is the base which they call a dead language. It's used in medicine and science. The Latin terms or scientific terms that you hear are all Latin. So Spanish, French, Portuguese, those are considered Romance languages. And oh, at my school, is it a second language that you all teach? Yes. So from kinder all the way up to, we go from TK to eighth grade, and we start them in kinder, and the parents select whether or not they want their child to learn French throughout those years or Spanish. And there's been experiences where parents have switched their children, after a few years if they're really struggling in French or they're really struggling in Spanish, and they'd switch. So that is what we offer at the school where I work. Dual immersion has been really one of those topics in which there's been some debate, a lot of debate actually, on its benefits, its drawbacks, things of that nature. By and large, the language development of a student before age 12, getting the accent down, getting the nuances of the language, things like that are really fantastic before the age of 12. So, not to say that past 12 you can't learn, but having an authentic accent, being able to have your brain work automatically where you hear. So, if you, for example, if you're listening to me right now, and I'm, speaking English, of course, and say you speak a foreign language, your brain actually will translate it in real time, like this, to the person's native tongue, and then be able to synthesize that information at the same speed in order to translate it into English. So I've always found languages very fascinating. So yes, I say all that to say that at our school, French is one of the second languages that we teach. All right. Well, are you? So let's see. Let's pose this question. I want to pose a new question. Let's see if I can pose a new question on here. Answer viewers' questions live. Okay. Um, mhm. There's a lot of stuff on my page, so excuse me for that. There's a Q&A. Perfect. What is or has been your educational experience? All right, so we are gearing up on nearly 35 minutes, and it would be wonderful to get some responses to what is or has been your what is or has been your educational experience? So I shared a bit of mine. What I've not mentioned actually is my company. So I mentioned it briefly. So my company is called SweetPea Tutoring. It is a private tutoring service, and we have several client testimonials. As I said earlier, I've been in the business for over 10 years. I've been a tutor for a very long time, and I have a lot of experience with math, science, reading, math, science, and reading, yes. I've had the opportunity mainly with math and reading. I don't get the opportunity to do a lot of science, but when I do, I'm super excited about it. I love reading. I love English language arts. Math is fun too. It's a good challenge. I know there was a time in my life where I would have never said that math was fun, but it is. And the experience that I have has been very warm, very welcoming, very positive, and I really enjoyed and really do enjoy actually being an educator. And as a business owner, it is a juggling act, but because it's within the same industry, it makes it not to say easy, but it does make it a lot easier. Um, being a private tutor, also being the director of education as a business owner, teaching middle school science is what I currently am doing. And I've shared a lot about my educational experience, and I'm waiting to hear from my audience on their experience with education. Any other questions? Does anyone have any questions out there? Alrighty. Yes, it is. Hmm. All right. Well, I'm going to sign off, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in. And I hope you got to learn a little bit about me, my company, my educational outlook. And I'll share more next time about my educational philosophy, my educational background, and whatever else we come up with as we mosey along in this conversation. So thank you for tuning in and have a wonderful evening.